After developing the mundane bodhichitta, you have to try your best to raise the unsurpassed profound meaning bodhichitta. The bodhichitta of unsurpassed profound meaning is beyond mundane world, and it removes all the arguments, and it is also very definite, and also it is target of vigilance, and there is no flow, and there is no useless argument, and it doesn't get swayed with the wind, and just like a flame that doesn't puts off with the restlessness. Making it a little more easier, here we are talking about the bodhichitta of mundane world, and also the bodhichitta of unsurpassed profound meaning. We have divided into two different categories. That is only different as per the level of achievement. But if you ask if there are two different things, but they are just the seeds. It is just the condition that one is more ripe and the other one is not as ripe as the previous one. So we call these two different bodhisattvas, but we all know that they are both beings, so they don't differ in DNAs too. We have tried to develop the sense of bodhichitta, and we try to proceed on. But then if I tell you in a more specific manner, then in the beginning, we're talking about the bodhichitta, the sense of bodhichitta, to the great resolvement to have the sense of bodhichitta. Here we are having these thoughts, and we start growing the sense of pity and compassion, which becomes a basis for the bodhichitta. And we also develop the feeling of Shakyamuni after meeting the Lotus Buddha, and we need to have this kind of heart, and we call this the aspiration to have achieved the bodhichitta. But as spoken in the Song of Dharma Nature, when you talk about the bodhichitta, what is the first sense of bodhichitta? Whether it is which Buddha ever, or whether it is not even in front of Buddha, in front of teacher, you need to have a big heart, and with that you will try to live for other sentient beings. And having this kind of heart, we call this the beginning, or the beginning of the having the sense of bodhichitta. And what is the second one? It is the enactment of the bodhichitta, that the aspiration of your heart. Because the sense of bodhichitta gets lessened in your heart, in order to strengthen that, we practice the 6 paramitas, and as you deepen your practice of 6 paramitas, we are able to practice our sense of bodhichitta, and by acting it, we call it the enactment of bodhichitta. And after that, when it gets achieved, and if you are able to attain the stage of Buddha, that's the final stage. But in the final stage, if you ask to where it is the mundane bodhichitta, then after you become Buddha, and before you become Buddha completely or absolutely, then you still have the state where it's a little harsh, and you have some leftovers of the mundane world, and we call that the mundane bodhichitta. But if you have attained the complete Buddhahood, and if you have if you are not swayed by anything else, or if you are not restless, that we call this unsurpassed profound meaning, the bodhichitta. As explained before, the mundane bodhichitta is a bodhichitta with expectation or target. What is that? In the beginning, when you try to become Buddha, then we have the target that we want to achieve the Buddhahood. And even when we enact the bodhichitta, we also have a clear target of becoming Buddha. So, as spoken in your the Pranya Paramita, it is said that let's go. But all those saying here, let's go, it is the bodhichitta of mundane world. As it said, gate gate paragate. As you know well, it is the bodhichitta of enactment. If you say parasamgate, it's even among the enactment of bodhichitta, it is also in a level where it's a little higher. It means let's go a little faster or a little sooner. So just the mundane world, one leg is on this side and the other leg is on the other side. If you keep swayed by it, then I call this someone who is keep shifting his mind. And here, you should not become someone like that. If you think that you're a little uncomfortable, that you want to become a monk, but then if it's a little comfortable for you to leave, then you prefer to stay in the mundane world. If you are someone who is always living in this border boundary, then you tend to think in a way which befits you more, or which you feel more comfortable. If the practice goes better, then you want to stay as you are. But then if you have a little difficulty, then you want to change your status. But then if you are a practitioner of this status, then you have so much limitations while living. Even after your marriage, you should not be someone like that. If you feel that if it's a little uncomfortable, or if you have a little difficulty at your home, then you want to end your marriage with your partner. But then even when you're comfortable, then you have no complaints about it. If you have gotten married, then you should not even think about whether you should have got married or you should not have gotten married in the first place. If you have a little slight difficulty, then you tend to believe that you should not have gotten married. There's something that I realized recently. On Saturdays or Sundays, or even in Thanksgiving, I never get a phone call. I don't get even a single call. And sometimes I wonder, how is it possible that I'm not even getting a phone call? But then that's the time I realize that it is a day which you feel comfortable living. But at times of your difficulty, then you call often and you call and discuss about your problems. But a human being, if you say, because of reflexes, although it could be something that comes out of reflexes, but if you have gotten married, then in your heart, then you should not have the feeling that you want to shift your ideas or your behavior or your decisions. Even then, you can only save your family and your children. If you keep shifting your thoughts, if your thoughts keep shifting, that if it keeps moving all the time, then even if you are like building 10 and 20 houses a day, it will have no end. These things are just the sayings of mundane world, but as we say, paragate, parasamgate, and bodhisattva, here bodhi means enlightenment, and sattva means completeness or completion. So we have all four stages of our practice. Even for those who practice the Hinayana, we have the Bharagati, let's go sooner, let's go faster. It's a little faster than the mundane world. If we say Parasamgati, there is all bodhisattva, they're all sattvas. So in the Hinayana, they do not go to the end of enlightenment. But then when you talk about this one, we are talking about the borderline of Buddha. At the border of Buddha, there's nothing more than just the things, everything for other sentient beings. There's nothing more that you need to practice. So by attaining the stage that you have nothing else to practice anymore, I call this stage the shrink stage. There is no stage which is higher. Since there is no knowledge that can be further gained, and so there is no stage that you need to aspire. What is unsurpassed profound bodhichitta, and what is the world's sentient beings bodhichitta? And there are many explanations to this, and the place where the common living things live, the specific place is called the world of sentient beings. But where holy things live, it is we call it the supramundane world. In a simple word, we call the world of sentient beings where people live with greed. And what is supramundane world? It is a world where people live without the greed. As a formality, if you become a monk, it doesn't become the world of supramundane world, but in the beginning, unless until you have achieved the way of beholding the truth or achieving the complete enlightenment, it doesn't become the supramundane world. Praying or prostrating, we don't prostrate in front of every other teacher, but we prostrate in front of a teacher who has achieved the complete enlightenment. And as the prayer is mentioned, in the prayer book, when you start reading the prayer script and when you first prostrate before we start studying, we only do it to teachers who have achieved the complete enlightenment, and also to those teachers who have achieved the level, we call them our teachers, and also we pray to them. And what is supramundane world? In an easy way, we can say. In an easy way, we can say that there are people who try to live with less greed. We are not saying formality that they have become a monk and they have balded your hair, but they don't have so much meaning. Even those people who live in this world of sentient beings, or even the people who lived in a common world, if you look at Avalokitesvara, she also had long hair. So when you become a monk and when you become a monk, they have achieved certain level of level in Buddhism, but they have decided to remain the same for the good of the common people. If you achieve a little higher level, then you will know that there is not so much meaning given to the formalities. You can have long hair and you can wear common clothes, but those people who live for the good of others, we call all of them the people living in the supramundane world. Doesn't matter whether if you are wearing the monk robes or if you have hair, but my happiness, if it lies in the greed and also in attachment, then we say you live in this common world. When we say things with a desire, most of them are materials, based on materials than the spirituals. Most of them are your property, honor, and money. And if you think they are the key points of your happiness, then we call that you live in this common world. It looks like you are achieving your happiness or your desire, but after some time they all break down, and that's something that you should know, and that's something that everyone knows too. So when we say the holy beings, what do we call holy beings? When we say saints, in Catholics, when you say holy or saint people, they are someone who shows miracle. But in Buddhism, it does not include miracle is not included at all. And also you can do it having knowledge of the laws and orders in Buddhism, but having them or knowing them, we do not call them saints. In Buddhism, we call holy people as someone who has thrown away their greed and also their agony, someone who has given up all of them but live for the betterment or good of other people, we call them holy. So throwing away your greed, we call them holy people. But if you have your greed but if you have just decorated your outer appearance, then no matter how big is the monastery and how much gold you have used to build the monastery, and no matter how big the monastery is, we do not say you are actually holy. So being holy lies in having the betterment for the good of others and also reducing your greed. So in Buddhism, unlike Catholic, we do not have other it's just accepted by teachers that you have reduced your greed, but we do not have a particular ceremony like Catholic. So when we say you are holy, we say the person has achieved the complete enlightenment, and even the spiritual reasons, we say that while he's raising his thoughts, there is no greed at all. So when the thoughts are being aroused, there is no selfishness at all. So maybe whether he's wearing the robe of a beggar, or whether he's having long hairs, or whether he's living in tent or having a very rich appearance, it has nothing to do with the spirits. What is the essence? The essence here is throwing away the greed, and you're doing betterment, you're doing better for the good of other common people. So by throwing away your greed, and the greed that you have thrown away equals the in Germany, before someone came named the beggar monk, and they said he's a saint because he was sleeping on the streets and also picking up garbage. But if you say those people who pick up garbage and sleeping on the street saints, then in countries like Africa and Somalia, there will be a lot of saints. Then what about Brazil? About half the population in Brazil digs in garbage bin, and they feed themselves from leftovers in the garbage bins. We do not call them saints. And if you say barefoot people are saints, and all the people living in Africa, they are also saints. We're not following those formalities, but we are looking whether that person has given up things from inside of their heart, whether that person is wearing the shoes, or whether the person is not wearing the robe of a beggar. It is not limited to those. And also the person from Thailand or China, was his name 칭화의 무상사? He has done his hair like the hair of Avalokitesvara in the Tanga, and was having a hand fan, and he was acting like she was acting like a saint, but she's not a saint.
잔불가를 후 부르는 사이에 할랑할랑 부채 들고 나가지고 내가 성인이다.
She has misunderstanding on her own, and even her nails were this long, and she was wearing a white manicure and was carrying the lotus and also fan in her hand. That is just symbolics. But just because Avalokitesvara was having the lotus fan, or lotus or the fan, it is symbol that when the situation is so harsh, she was still very pure for the good of others, and she was not being colored by the greed, and she still had the heart for the betterment of the commons. That's why that's why it is a symbolic of what Avalokitesvara has done for the commons. So her teachings and also to quench the thirst of the commons, she was carrying the bottle, but it's not like her, where she was wearing the white cloth, and when the wind was blowing, and even the wind was some feature for her stage, and about 100 people were singing behind her. That is not Avalokitesvara, but that is actually a sickness like megalomaniac. And nowadays, even in church, they say if Jesus knows what's going on in churches nowadays, I'm sure Jesus will also have heart breaks. Jesus never lived like that. Lived like what people say nowadays. He lived like Buddha, like a very poor person. He was just carrying a stick. And carrying a stick is not holy. They keep playing with those kind of things, and they build higher stage, and they have light effects, and they invest more in sound effects, and these kind of things are not even very important, but they do not understand what is holiness. You get cheated by the senses from the eyes, nose, and mouth. And once you start being cheated, then there is no end, and you will spend a lot of money, and you will become farther and farther away from the goodness. The holy beings, we call the supramundane world their spiritual status, and also if you achieve the complete enlightenment, which is the first road to their enlightenment, finally you will enter into the supramundane world. If you go to Hunguk Monastery, then in the back there is a picture. You have seen the lost cow, and what is a cow? Is our lost way, and it actually means I have found the way all my life which I had lost before. If you enter into the complete enlightenment, then you will know that you will not divert to the other road, and that's why you need to meet teachers, and you need to follow the right way. And Yu Byung-hun, he should have never gotten money from others. Because he got money from others, he fell eventually. Even his body got rotten. He's not free to receive any money. And who are those who has the right to receive money from others? It's those who have already achieved the way of hearing the truth or enlightenment. Some people also ask me, don't you need some money for your old age? Well, if I have no money when I'm old, then I would just have to go. What else can I do?
늙은 뒤에 돈이
Isn't it
없어.
so?
없어서 가면 그냥 가지 어떡할 거야.
You still think you had to have some? Okay, that's good. If you think that you still need to have some.
안 그런가? 네? 저는 아직 있어야 되겠어요. 자네는 아직
If you have achieved the way of beholding the truth, then if you're thinking you will stop to that, then, and of course, if you're very hungry and if your stomach is making the sound, then of course you are feeling uncomfortable, but you will hold no grudges to the world. You will have no grudges that the others are eating very well, but what's wrong with me? You will not have those kind of feelings because of the studies that you have done so far.
그게 없어. 남은 잘 먹고 사는데 나는.
Some ask me I should also make some more savings for myself for my old age, but that is not a good saying.
그 스님 통장을 좀 따로 만들어 놓으시죠. 개떡 같은 소리.
Nowadays, I become a little more comfortable because I lock my door when I go to Seoul in fear that my room will become a little humid. But even if I open the door to my room, there is nothing that anyone will take. So I feel very comfortable, and I think it's more comfortable for me that they would take it on their own rather than I find it for others, because I'm a little slow at finding things. So I think it's more comfortable that they find it on their own and take it. And also in my heart, I don't have, and I think I will not have a kind of hatred for the person who has taken the things from my room. So it's okay even if they take it from my room. So I feel very comfortable. If I have no money, then I would just stop on the way. I have no money, then what to do? Tibetan monks, they do this because they have no money. I have to go to listen to the teaching there, but since I have no money, because monks are supposedly very poor, so they said, if possible, can you just pay for my, they requested me if I could pay for their accommodation and transport. And for the food, they will take care of themselves, and it doesn't even matter if they are not able to eat. If you do that, then that's more than enough. But this kind of things is a little uncomfortable to say, but because our head office or head monastery, they keep making political decisions. So Venerable Songdam, in our religious sect, he has the most deepest knowledge or educational study, and because what they have been doing is so poor that when they were electing the head monk of the monastery, he said, do not do that. He has already given them the order, but make a decision based on the person who has done the best deed. But because the head office, the head monk made the wrong decision, and by coloring political influence, he has decided to leave the Jogejong sect. Well, he is actually the student of Venerable Jeonggang, and amongst all the Korean monks, Venerable Jeonggang is the only one that I have accepted as my teacher. And Venerable Songdam is the practitioner of his knowledge and belief, and Venerable Jeonggang tried to put him to the status of complete enlightenment. And because there were nothing to eat in Gwangju, so Venerable Jeonggang sold apples, and he even did laundry for his students, and he gave them the chance to practice for 10 years without any speech. And after that, Venerable Songdam has taken as in monastery in Incheon,
도인 한 사람
and he has brought up a lot of students, but those people, they don't try to listen to great teachers like him, and instead they make all these political decisions. And because of that, Venerable Songdam said, if you're going to operate the monastery in that way, I will leave this place.
당신이 할 수 있는 것은 당신이 뭐 데려다 놓고 두드려 팰 수도 없는 일이고.
In my opinion, he made the right decision.
운영을 하고 나는 너희들과 나하고 상관없다.
Then only Incheon Yongam Monastery will not be influenced by politics. And he has also told his disciple, if you are going to pursue your self-interest, and if you think, if you follow me, and if you have disadvantages by following me, then you should leave me. And this veteran has already made a decision, leaving no place for the wrong decision making. And I agree to him 120%, and I respect his opinion. The politicians, they try to take into a monastery, and they are trying to influence the monastery by doing so many bad deeds.
정치꾼들이 정치해가지고 절 차지하려고 말해요. 오만 세속에서 하지 않은
So, the way of beholding truth, which is the first step for the enlightenment, we call that the supramundane world, and we call all the people who has reached the place, we call them teachers, and we prostrate to them. And if you follow their teachings, and there is no mistakes, or else everyone will move based on their full betterment of their self-interest. And if you move towards your self-interest, then you yourself will become like a head of the superstition, or you try to honor yourself. Or if there are many believers, then you try to make yourself more honorable, and you try to earn more money. And in reality, while teaching proper Buddhist teachers, Buddhist beliefs, it is not possible to build a grand monastery or church with a lot of money. It is not possible. It is something that cannot happen. How is it possible that you are following the right path, but you are actually having so much money to do this? I think that is something impossible. This is from basic understanding of the path to the complete truth. Because you're entering the complete enlightenment, you're actually understanding the direct understanding of the voidness. Because if we say that in prior to understanding this, if voidness was just based on the relations, now you're actually experiencing the way of building the truth or complete enlightenment. Because our heart does not have self-interest, or you also know that our body itself does not have I, and we also understand that there is selflessness. And if you understand those, then you will have no attachment to anything, especially for money or for honor. You understand that there are nothing better than the dance of horse or the dogs, because with them we can actually even make flame out of it or burn. But if you have so much greed in yourself, you're just ruining the other person. And as a human being, we should never do those kind of things. And especially with someone as a practitioner, you should not do that. These stages of practice belongs to the middle way school, and we have the Tantrika and Prasangika, and since this is a little complicated thing, let's just leave it to the fact that we understand that in Dhyamika, the middle way school, there are two different parts, and they have different opinions. The thing is, Tantrika is a sect which has approved themselves through the debate, but Prasangita is the part that criticizes this. Tantrika has been promoting the complete voidness, but Prasangita has been proving that there is at least some little more something left there. Okay, let's skip this part, and if we skip this part, then let's next page we have
놓고 보시기 바랍니다.
down about fourth line there is
저 뒤에
it belongs to the middle way school, and so when you're explaining about
그 보면 밑에
this Abhidharma, then we will follow the opinion of the middle way school. When we actually say the Mimika, it belongs to the Nagarjunas, and it has a very clear statement that belongs to the Tantrika. So we are not going to explain in lieu of the Prasangika. So we will be following the steps of Tantrika, but if necessary, we will also try to take in opinions of Prasangita and try to understand in more detail. So even when you are explaining the stages of voidness, there are two different parts, Tantrika and Prasangita, but we will follow Nagarjuna's Tantrika. So we will be following the middle way. Amongst the practitioners, we have Shravaka and Pratya Buddha and saints like them who has understood the voidness. But when you enter the steps of bodhichitta, they actually have direct understanding by following the practice of the voidness on their own. But even we call them Shravaka, Prayateka, and Buddha, but even those bodhisattvas, they have a basis on voidness, but just like bodhisattvas, they are not those who follow who practices bodhisattvas or experiences bodhisattvas. But those who enter the path of bodhisattva, they follow the deep practice of the method to the voidness, and they understand it on their own. If you enter the path of the saint method, then the detailed method for the voidness is given. I asked with Hinayana, sometimes when Hinayana criticize about Mahayana, they have opinions against the way of Bodhisattva. So I asked them, so is it that you're opposing the Mahayana? But they say it is not so, but they actually accept that there is the way, there is the bodhisattva, but they just say that they do not, the bodhisattva practice, they do not oppose it, but they say it's very difficult, so they follow the Araya method, but they do not follow the bodhisattva practice because it's more complicated and difficult. Some of them, some people living in Korea, they follow the practice of the practice that has been followed in Japan, and that is not actually true. The wisdom that has actually understood the voidness, we can apply the direct method as a counter method to our delusion and also our agony. We are not talking about the narrow method, but we are talking about the broader method. But in like Hinayana, they say do not have greed, but in Mahayana, they say by offering, you're reducing your greed and you're benefiting others. It is different. So in Hinayana, they offer to their teachers, but to the public, even in Thailand, it is very less. But in Mahayana, completely, in order to reduce my greed, they do not say reduce your greed, but you need to offer to others, and by offering to others, you are reducing your greed, and by reducing your greed, even if you do not, to those who suffer, who doesn't have the goods or money, try to open their path by providing them. So your self-interest and also others' interest happens at the same time, and that has been taught in Mahayana. So it is different from Hinayana. The method is a little more precise and to enter the voidness, and what is the best way to empty. For example, in a material way, if it is void, then it is not something that I need to have no greed, but it is. But if you understand, it is more important to understand that there's nothing that is mine. Without that, it is not possible to experience. So, about our agony, Hinayana talks about following order and also improving their wisdom. They talk about three things, but in Mahayana, precisely to reduce and also to have a greed. By reducing that kind of greed, you try to empty, and by following the order, you try not to harm others, and the sense of parsimony. For example, for Hinayana, they do not have precise method for anger, but in Mahayana, even for the rage or anger, they talk about tolerance. And if I have anger for an object, then we also say you are someone who is gathered here based on the relation, and I have also gathered here based on the relation. So, based on what point of view should I be angry about? There is no opponent to be angry about. So when you talk about it, although we say many bad things about the person, if the person has died, then depending on the relation, the person has already disappeared, then to whom are you going to curse about? So even for the law of legislation, if a person dies, then we do not question their guilt anymore. And even Mr. Yu Byung-hun, after his death, there is no place for us to ask for the payback. So even for the tolerance, there's also limits. But the thing is, if there is a form, then if I need to be a little more tolerating, it is more difficult. But if there is no form to have the tolerance for, then we know that there is no point for us to be angry about. So you and I, both of us is void. Both of us is void, and at whom should we be righteous about?
그래서 너와 내가 공하는데 누굴 보고서 분노하고 누굴 보고서 누가 분노하느냐 이렇게 나가는 것이다.
So Mahayana talks about precise methods to deal with, but even the precise methods to enter into voidness. So if you practice them, then you can enter into voidness. It's same for vipassana and samatha. For the agony, if you have a precise feedback or precise message to do with it, the Mayana has it all. The Four Noble Truths, which is actually the talks about the wisdom that has achieved the
실질적인 바른 길인 사성제는 신스러운 존재, 즉 성인들의 정신적 흐름에서 볼 수 있는 공성을 깨우친 지혜를 말합니다. 사성제 그러면
The Four Noble Truths are the wisdoms that with which you can enter into voidness. So all the human beings or all the sentient beings that go through our life, and although we want to remain to the place where we feel a little happiness, but we cannot stay at all in that place. We cannot mingle. We want to stay longer, we want to stay longer and we want to be there, but it is not possible to do that. Think about it when you listen to the music. If music is something that if the music is something that is always there, when you're listening to the music all the time, then there's no reason for us to listen to the music because music is there all the time. But at the moment that you're listening, if the sound is made from the instrument, and if we listen to it at the when it's vacuum, then we cannot hear it because we hear it to the so when we hear the sound, we need to listen to it, and it gets transmitted to the brain. We listen with our ears, and it gets sent to the brain. But the time that the happiness we feel, or the time that it takes for us to receive, is less than 0.1 second. So even for a moment, it does not save, and it keeps changing, and therefore we feel happy when you are listening to it. The thing that we are feeling happy listening to it, in other words, in opposite, we can also say is something that changes over the time. If we have attachment to it, it disappears, and even if we do not have attachment for it, it disappears. So in our mundane world, the thing we call happiness, it is something that changes all the time and disappears all the time, and that's why we are talking about everything that we talk about, even the taste, it disappears. If we say the soybean paste is delicious, and if it stays within our mouth for 10 to 20 years, then we cannot even taste something else. You feel it remains in your memory, but even the memory disappears over a certain period of time. So the happiness we feel in our mundane world, the happiness we feel in our senses, they will disappear from time to time, and that's why we say they are bound to stay, and that's what we call remaining. And because the moment that we have attachment for it, it stays. At the moment that we have attachment for it, it disappears. Why do they disappear? The music that we talk about, the player or our brain or our acknowledgement and everything, a part of them, they disappear over time. And if I become deaf, then I cannot hear to the music at all. If the musician is sick, then he cannot play. And amongst all the conditions, if one of the conditions goes wrong, then we cannot hear it any longer. Among so many different conditions, if one of them goes wrong, then we cannot listen to it anymore. So one of the relations arising, if you try to analyze it in a very depth manner, then it is very, very, very mysterious and it's miraculous. It's like a miracle. But if you just sit still, and if you're listening to a sound, and if you can hear a sound, then if you know that amongst because so many relations got gathered, and if you can listen to it, that we call
인연들이 모여서 이루어진 것이다라는 게 집세죠.
that we call the 10 noble fruits.
것이고 알 수 없는
Among so many futile things that we and the
우리는 전제되어진 것이 뭐냐면
we fear the pain because they disappear.
무상한 것들에 대한 집착을 하면서 느껴진
Even the time it disappears over time, because I also disappear over time. It's just something that we feel everything, and the feelings are bound to change.
가고 사라질 수밖에 없단 말이야. 나 스스로도 그렇다.
But if you
우리가 느끼는 감각이란 말이야.
if you think that there's no method to
여러 가지 조건들이 다 사라질 수밖에 없는데
it is not possible to stop time, but those people who believe that they can stop time and change the outcome, they believe in those kind of God. If you I would not want to do that, because the mother-in-law that you feel that has given you so much pain, if you think that you are going to meet them in hell, then I don't think I would want to meet them again. Even the people that you like so much, and if you're meeting after 40 years, then it will be very difficult to get found again.
뭐 만나라 그러면 한 40년 떨어졌다 만나는 거.
But since they are the beings that we cannot make them understand or acknowledge, because the things or objects or the feelings that we haven't attached, they disappear. We feel lonely and we feel miserable. And what do we have to do? Then disappearance itself, we just have to accept as they are. And accepting as they are, it is not something that we accept just by speeches, but even in thought, in reality.
그 자체를 갖다 그대로 인정할 수밖에 없어.
By having a proper opinion, I just have to observe the disappearance of the phenomenon.
실제로 내가
In the end, my greed has to disappear,
사라져가는
and we call that the path leading to the cessation of this suffering. And
내 욕심이
because we have no attachment to the diverse or many people that we meet,
그렇게 하면 어떤 상황이 벌어지냐면
although it is very sad to see the leaves falling in autumn, we do not sit and we cry. Is there anyone who cries over the fallen leaves? There is no one, right?
안타깝지만도 여러분 낙엽을 보고서
Although the tree, maybe the tree after 40 or 50 years has died, we just look at it and observe the tree has died, but we do not say, oh, why have you died? Did someone cut you with a saw, or did you got cancer? I have memories with the tree. We do not cry and we do not offer after death.
어째 죽었다냐 암에 걸렸냐 누가 톱으로 잘랐냐
So the greed and attachment, if it disappears, then even my or I disappearing, you just accept the fact that the I is also disappearing. What are you going to do if you do not just observe?
이 내가 나라고 했던 이 존재마저도 그런 범죄에
That is nirvana,
이 존재마저도 그냥 그대로 둔단 말이야.
the flame of agony disappearing.
그게 멸이야 니르바나야. 번뇌 불꽃이 번뇌 집착이
So even all of you, while aging, think about it carefully. You're not able to see very well after 40. Are you wearing a magnifying glass? Not yet. Something is wrong. You should be wearing the magnifying glass. try wearing the ones without the lenses because others might feel bad about it. Do you wear magnifying glass while reading, or do you not read books? About 40, everyone has problem with eyes, maybe due to aging and also with other diseases, a sickness related to the optics, and even those senses, they come and go with the relations. So if you're not able to see, if you're not able to hear, and if you're not able to walk fast, when you are young, you can run and you can do something. But now, if someone asks you to run 100 meters, you could also have heart problem. So while aging, you just feel that things are just it is our just way of falling. Our hairs will start falling more, and that is just the law of nature.
늙어가면 그냥 그렇다. 그게 이제 그게 무너져가는 모습이거든.
So the senses of falling, although in speeches you say, "Oh, that's because I'm old," but if someone calls you grandmother, then you say, "Oh, are you not able to see properly? Why am I a grandmother?"
누가 할머니 그러고 저 모르는 놈이 할머니 그러고 저럼 정새끼 눈이 삐었나 그래.
This kind of law of nature, we just have to go in a very natural way. Something that is not natural, that is achieved through our persistence. Like if you go to Hadong, then you will see a lot of chestnut trees. If you put too much fertilizers, then in autumn, even when the leaves are falling, because of the fertilizers, because of the fertilizers, they do not fall and they become like black and they still stay. And when the frost comes, they will just freeze and they will become black. But the rest of the leaves, they age, and because they age, because of the wind, if wind blows, then they fall down. But the ones with a lot of fertilizers, even in winter, they try to bear it, but when the frost comes, they die. So when walking around, I feel that because he has strength, he is being stubborn, and he has just gone because he was being so stubborn. Even the leaves, when they prepare to fall, those ones which were prepared to fall, they are still looking pretty, even the colors. But the ones in the chestnuts, because they try so hard to remain, because of the frost they die, they become like so black and they're so ugly, and something that is unnatural that looks like that. So when I go to Hadong, I saw the chestnut farm and I asked them to stop it on the way, and they could have just left it naturally, but because they have put too much fertilizers, they look so unnatural. So even to ourselves, we should not put too much fertilizers. In order to live long life, we practice so hard with so many good things, and in order to live long, you come here doing exercise, but you say hello, Venerable Jinok, and you come here and sitting here, you smoke. You want to live for a long time, but you want to smoke. So the actual proper part, the Four Noble Truths, talks about the wisdom that has already understood the voidness, which is from the flow of the spiritual flow of the saints. So how are you going to look at the life? That we all understand that there is suffering, but if we try to figure out why did the suffering arise, then and what are the methods to eradicate it? Of course, there are ways. If there is no ways to remove it, then Buddha would not have talked about it. And And if you say, so when can you remove it? It's just like when the autumn comes, when you become so comfortable and the status is almost so comfortable, like the leaves falling down from a tree in autumn. But since this kind of things are very difficult, we ask you to pray very hard. We ask you to pray religiously. Those people who pray hard and those people who doesn't do many wrong things and doesn't smoke, doesn't drink a lot, even when they age in a very gentle way, and in the end they pray hard, and also just like the leaves falling, they go away in a very beautiful manner. They do not try to fight back so hard. They do not say, oh, I'm about to die. Even in the end, they cannot even bear that, and they lose their mind, and they do not have a clear set of minds. That should not happen to you. You understand? The power of meditation or practice is also miraculous. It is beyond our imagination. There is strength in it. We are not talking about the normal power in like political powers. It has got nothing to do with that. But the most important power that gives tranquility in my life lies there. It is a very holy thing, and it is also the wisdom that has achieved the voidness. The bodhichitta, different forms, 20 voidness, 2 voidness, are methods to divide the voidness. Divide a voidness in this manner, and also you can provide them the proofs. First, in the normal scripts, if you study the method they have proposed, then we can see how it has developed over historically, and as a result, you can also see them in the few of the studies. Well, I'm not able to find the brackets here. Also, you can find you can also find it from the methods through the symbolic understanding of the symbol, especially in Tibetan Buddhism, Anattara Yoga Tantra. You can see the raised zone, which in other symbolic way you can say Yamataka. The 16 hands, you can also see them as 16 voidness. And this is also a proof that they talk about the philosophical historic era of the time. The 16 voidness, 20 voidness, 2 voidness, all of them are, if you study them in detail, then all of them basically, essentially, they become a status where there is no form. Although this is something to do with Buddhism, but this has been proved in a scientific manner, whether it's a study of universe or if you study in a molecules, then you can reach to the form of the energy. And how is the status of the energy? The energy form is so that if it blows, then it disappears. Those things which has been analyzed in that manner, even if you look at them in a scientific way, in reality, the form of the existence, there is no special form of the existence, but essentially they are all void. whether we divide it to 60 manners or 20 manners or 2 manners, they are all essentially the same. They all are gathered based on the base of the relation, but nothing is beyond this, and even the relation is just a form of the condition.
따라서 다 모여 있을 뿐이지 실제 인연을 벗어나서 인과 연을 벗어나서 존재하는 것은 하나도 없다. 모든 것은 조건입니다.
And while trying to elaborate on suffering, if the speeches on the suffering is a little more detailed, then you will have the sense of bodhichitta, and if you have the sense of bodhichitta, then you also have the sense of offering. While living, if you have interest, like if you gain interest for earning money, I was very surprised before. I have tried to earn money with all my life, and so I asked what happened, and he said, now about time that I feel satisfied. I have a very bad disease, and since there is no method, I said, now just as much as hard as you try to earn money, now try to survive. I thought she would understand better if I say that in that manner. But she was not able to cure her disease, and in the end she passed away. For about 45 years, for day and night she has tried to earn money. All her life was to trying to earn money, like the soul sellers in olden times. I don't know why they try to make the sack like that, but for the rice, they make it very tight. But the salt sacks in olden times, they made it with dry straws. But for those soul sellers, they did not even bow to elders on the street because in fear that the souls would fall. And when they're going one mountain after one mountain to go to other place, for every walk they were walking, the souls would fall. So they would walk in a very soft manner, and they would often fall very sick because of their hard work. But after earning so much money, and I heard that one person earned about so much money, and he bought about two to three fields farm, but he did gambling, and on a very fine day he lost everything that he owned. He should not. It's just that like he should not have done the gambling, or he should not have sold the salt. It scares me a lot when we say, I have lived all my life trying to earn money. But if you say I have just earned some in order to survive, that much I can understand. But for monks, if they say I have tried to survive to earn money, I have tried to earn money to survive, but for the monks, that doesn't apply, because for the monks, even if they are able to eat only one bowl of rice, they should be satisfied with that. But when I say something like this, some people they say then for monks, I heard it's fine for them to starve to death. Some very mean people. Once I had teaching, I never thought about it like this manner, and I don't have that kind of philosophy in my head, so I would never say things like that. But they had their own misinterpretation, and they were saying things like that.
내 머릿속에 그런 생각이 전혀 없잖아. 그런 철학적 흐름이 없잖아. 그럼 그런 소리를 할 리가 없는데 전혀 딴 소리로 해석을 해가지고
Since I know a little bit of the order, I do not talk something that is out of order. And even when I scold you, I'm saying it for the betterment of you. I'm not saying it because I blame you.
알기 때문에 법에 벗어난 얘기는 이제 안 한단 말이야.
Okay, that's that. But even this year, I'm going to donate a little money. I'm going to buy some clothes for the monks. About 6 people.
이제
I'm going to do it even this year.
또 가사불사를 흘랍니다.
About 6 people did not answer. This year I'm going to
가사불사를 흘랍니다.
to place name speech,
하나,
and the place is
올해는 어디 쪽을 할 거냐면
is a place where I have seen on TVs or from the knowledge of mine. It's a place where it's worse for people to live. So about 3,100 to 3,400 meters above sea level. Its name speech about it's a long valley, and on and there are about 4 to 10 houses in one village in Spiti. They do not even have farmlands, but they just try to they have tried to make living in the place. There are cows there, but I was very surprised and I was amazed at what is it that they eat, because there were no grass for them to feed. And here, I think in front of our monastery, we can bring about 100 cows. Tabo is name of the village that's the biggest in Spiti, and they have about 10 cows, and they just let them free and let them freely feed on the grasses, but there is nothing to eat, and it becomes about below minus 30 to 40 degrees in winter. And so even if they let the water flow, they freeze, and there is no mode of heating system, and even the electricity, if it comes for about 2 hours, then the electricity runs out for about 2 days. And so most of them, unless until they're from Spiti, they cannot really bear the region. And in about October, now they try to leave the place, because in October it becomes very cold and it goes below degree Celsius. And monks, they have there are 11 monasteries and about 500 monks. It's approximately 500 monks. In Tabo is the biggest monastery, and when I asked the head monk over there, he said about 500 monks in about 10 monasteries. And in the winter, because it's very cold, now I understand why they all have stomach problem, because and they have their spines bent, because it's very cold. They stay in this posture, and this leads to their sickness. And so about November it becomes a little late to have a new clothing. And so the clothing that we gave last year, Namgyal Monastery, they did a very good job. About 310 monks there, they went to Delhi, and just like our Dongdaemun market, they bought good clothes in mass, and they gave to the tailor, and they have few dollars left, and they called me and asked me if they can use that money for somewhere else. They are so innocent and so naive. If it was me, then I would have used it without even asking them. But for them, about $50, they can buy a new set of clothes. So I was very happy. Last year, it was very good opportunity for us, because the dollar We bought about 1,100 per a dollar, but over there it was about $64. 64 rupees. It was actually 44, but it increased a lot. So when we changed the rupees and when we gave it to them, and they were first we calculated about 2,001 people, but they could manage to give about 3,100 people. And since we have done for them last year, this time I want to do is PT and Ladakh. When I asked Nechungkutnla about Ladakh, he said those hemis or arts or jaskets, and those monks were there, about 2,500 people. To have accurate number, we have to ask again, but about 2,000 people, there will be in and out 2,500. So I asked them to provide me a proper list, so, but actually they would not even lie, so there's no need to ask for a list. So about 2,500 people and SPT 500 people. I hope we could give them a little clothing. Is it too burdening for you? What do you say? Do you feel burdened by it? One clothing for a month about $50. Like I said last time, in Korea, we need more than $1,000, but it's more than $1,000 if you try to make with good clothing. But if we just try, to them we can do it with $50. And so just think that you are giving clothing, you're offering a clothing to a Korean monk. And moreover, since they're refugees, their countries, just like Ladakh, offering for them, offering clothing that's worth $50 is a very difficult job for them, because in Ladakh about $50, that's almost like 2 to 3 months living allowance for them. Then for us, it's about $3,000 to $4,000. With money worth $3,000 to $4,000, they save it, and they cannot make their own clothing. And so when we look at it, the clothing are torn and they are very worn out. And those people living a very luxurious life, or if someone out of pure heart, he or she has to save and offer to them, or someone very rich, unless until they give them some money, they are not able to make new clothing. So when we since Dharamshala they could make about 2,200 clothing, it seems like Jinok, Venerable Jinok is very rich in Korea.
다람살라에서 3,200불을 했다니까 그 사람들이 뭐라 그러냐면
Spiti's condition was like that, and in Dharamshala, because they're refugees and since they have no citizens, for them it is very difficult to make clothing for their monks. And so for the refugees, or even to the remotest place in the world, for those believers who believe in Buddhism, and also for the monks, please think that you are doing good for them. And followingly, if possible, last time it did not go very well, but those people who had donated the money, I hope if possible you could just write the name of the person, one person per each clothing. Then I would give it to them and ask them to pray a little or have a little blessing in English. If you could write your name. Maybe we could give the list of people who had donated the money to they do it wholeheartedly. So maybe we would give like if about 200 people's clothing is provided to Ladakh, then we will give about 200, and also for each monasteries, we will give them a little list of people who had given the donation. Because the list was too long, I felt a little sorry. But what you say, shall we write the whole family's name? About if it's 10 people per family, 10 people? What do you say?
모아서 이렇게 들을 수 있게 명단이 너무 많으니까 좀 미안해서 그렇더라고. 그래서 어때 그거는 어때요? 한 식구 그냥 다 할까? 10명이면 10명? 예?
People like us, we have no benefits. If we cannot do anything about, even if we pray, because but those people, they have lived all their life praying for others and for sacrifice. So their prayer means way more. What do you say? Let's say, let's just take one name per cloth. And if there's anyone who is pregnant, then they could write 2 people, including the child in the stomach. Shall we?
한 벌에 한 사람씩 그렇게 합시다. 어? 그리고 이제 뭐 혹시 임신해가 있는 사람 뱃속에 사람은
Okay, we should say we are leaving about 9 or 8, and so we are going to finish collecting about that. I haven't yet made the donation book, so if possible, just write the names, and at the bottom, just write the English spelling in the end. And those people who doesn't have a passport, just write your name as it is pronounced. And if you could write your mobile number, then when we are when you are giving it to them, because it's going to be broadcasted, we will send you an SMS. So if you could write your mobile phone, you know that we are going there. But since after we come back, they're going to give it to them. But the thing is, since we are already back here, and if you could write your mobile number, then we will send SMS for you to see that they're being passed to the person who is receiving. Today we have a little offering. So if possible, if you're not busy, I hope you could stay for a little prayer. Thank you.
좀 그래 주시기 바랍니다. 오늘 이제 49제가 있으니까 여러분 크게 바쁘시지 않은 분들은 데뷔주까지만 좀 같이 연부를 해주시면 좋겠습니다. 자, 끝내죠. 예.